Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dialogue between Chinese and English Classics. I'm Marilyn Chin from the College of Foreign Studies at Jinan University.
And I'm James, a guest teacher in the College of Foreign Studies at Jinan University.
James, now let me introduce Marilyn Chin to you. Marilyn Chin was born in Hong Kong in 1955. She immigrated to America with her parents when she was 7 and was raised in Oregon. Although she received American education, Marilyn Chin showed great interest in Chinese literature and studied classical Chinese literature at Massachusetts State University. She was later appointed as a professor at San Diego State University. Like you said in part 1, she is one of the most prominent and active Chinese American poets. Winning many awards, she was elected as the Chancellor of the Academy of American Poets in January 2018. Up to now, Marilyn Chin has already published 1 novel and 5 poetry collections. The novel is titled The Mooncake Vixen, and the collections of poems are Dove Bamboo, The Felix Gone, The Terrace Empty, Rhapsody in Plain Yellow, Hot Love Province, and A Portrait of the Self, Isolation. The last one, A Portrait of the Self-Isolation, records the ups and downs of the 30-year life and the spiritual journey of Marilyn Chin herself.
So, Professor Pu, you just mentioned Marilyn Chin showed great interest in Chinese literature and studied classical Chinese literature at Massachusetts State University. Could you explain more about the influence of Chinese literature on Marilyn Chin?
Yes, of course. Within Asian American literary discourse, the use of Asian material, particularly Chinese folklore or idioms, has been a heated topic from the start. Since Chin invested in considerable time in her youth learning Chinese educations have had a great impact on her writing. She has actually acknowledged the impact of Chinese education as the following. And I keep thinking, maybe I shouldn't be interested in Tang Dynasty poetry because that's going backwards. Because I'm writing in English after all, and I have to show that the collection is here.
Professor, could you please give us an example of this connection?
Sure. Take her first work as an example. Her Dove Bamboo shows an intertextuality with Bai Junyi's newly planted bamboo. As you know, Bai Junyi was a great poet of the Tang Dynasty. The Chinese reads like this: 物言根未固，物言应未成. Chin modifies it into English like this: I do not say that their roots are still weak. I do not say that their shade is still small. And her second poetry collection is titled The Felix Gone, The Terrace Empty. In Chinese, we could translate into 凤去台空. And the collection opens with the following bilingual expression: 川流不息 in Chinese, and the English is the river flows without a season. That could easily remind the Chinese readers of one ancient Chinese poem. Besides, Chin shows a multiple intertextuality with the other Chinese poets and American writers. Let's take her Song of the Sad Guitar as one example. James, would you please read the following?
Sure. It is entitled Song of the Sad Guitar. Suddenly, I began to feel deeply about my own banishment. The singer I could have been, what the world looked like in spring, that Motown collection I lost. I urged her to play on. Trickle, trickle, the falling rain. Ming, Ming, a deer lost in the forest. Suru, Suru, a secret conversation. Hung, hung, a dog in the yard. 2 years after our meeting, I became deranged. I couldn't cook, couldn't clean. My house turned into a pigsty. My children became delinquents. My husband began a long, lusty affair with another woman. The house burned during a feverish Santa Ana as I sat in a pinky cranny position above the garage, singing, "At 20, I marry you. At 30, I begin hating everything that you do." I am now beginning to understand the song within the song, the weeping within the willow. And you, out there, walking, talking, seemingly alive, may truly be dead and waiting to be summoned by the sound of the sad guitar.
Thank you, James. First of all, Chin's allusions to Maxine Hong Kingston's The Woman Warrior in this piece are readily apparent, even without the open dedication at the end. Stone Orchard to Maxine Hong Kingston's Brave Orchard and the Moon Orchard. Secondly, Chin's writing also shows a strong connection with Chinese poems. For example, the starting stanza of Song of the Sad Guitar, "Trickle, trickle, the falling rain. Ming, ming, a deer lost in a forest. Through, through, a secret conversation. Hong, hong, a dog in the yard," is very much a translation from Bai Juye's Song of the Pipa. In Chinese, 琵琶行, the quotation is, 潮潮切切错杂弹, 大珠小珠落玉盘, 间关阴雨花底滑, 幽夜泉流冰下蓝. Besides, at 20, I marry you. At 30, I begin hating everything that you do is an allusion to Li Bai's A River Merchant's Wife, a letter. At 14, I married my Lord Jew. At 15, I stopped scowling. At 16, you departed. In Chinese, 14为君妇，修颜未尝开。15始展眉，愿同尘与灰。16君远行，瞿塘滟玉堆。
Professor, it seems that Chin is quite bilingual with the nutrition of Chinese culture and literature.
You are right, James. She has also used a similar concept to identify her writing. She said, "I often put a drop of yellow blood in conventional form to assert my bicultural identity." Chin's attempts to reclaim her Chinese cultural heritage are central to her poetics and theme. In her interview with Bill Moyes, Chin reveals her fear of losing her Chinese heritage and the Chinese language. She said, "This loss would be like losing a part of myself, losing part of my soul." And she adds, "Poetry seems a way to capture that."
What does she mean by cultural identity in the conventional form of poetry writing?
That is a very good question, James. In her poems, she seems to inscribe her Chinese cultural identity and to resist European American cultural domination through allusions, subject matters, and experimentations with the lyric forms and reasons by incorporating elements of Chinese aesthetics and poetic structure. Take her first work as example. Like what we have discussed, the title of her first book, Doff Bamboo, alludes to Bai Juyi. Chin uses 2 lines from Bai Juyi's poem, Planting Bamboo, as an epigraph for her book. This newly planted bamboo, with its roots still weak and the shade still small, but being resilient, will grow into its full potential. The analogy embodied in this Doff Bamboo is to Chin herself as a young poet, and to the situation of Chinese American poetry itself. This analogy is echoed in the opening poem of Doff Bamboo and throughout the book. Therefore, you can see, as a minority American poet, Chin says, we have to be greater than self. In addition to identities of race, culture, class, and nationality that are intricate constituents of the self in Chin's poems, female gender identity is also predominant.
It seems that Chin's poetry writing is quite political and cultural.
Yes, Almost all reviewers note Chin's in-depth exploration of Chinese Americans' cultural identity in terms of their collections to China and the problems of their assimilation. Thus, Chin's incorporation of Chinese history and culture in her poem is more than a nostalgic gesture or an aesthetic necessity. It has the effect of resisting Eurocentrism and of transforming American poetry. Chin has also claimed the influence of Chinese poetry to her bilingual ability and bicultural sensibility. As she said, "How exciting to have this great opportunity to make a political statement about my bicultural identity by exacting my ideas with hybridized forms. I often put a drop of yellow blood in conventional form to assert my bicultural identity, to disrupt the canonical order, to piece on that establishment tree."
Marvelous. Then besides her cultural and political effort, is there any main aesthetic feature in her poetry writing?
Quite a number of reviewers have noticed in her writing features that she opens the classic tales and the poems of both East and West to reveal the ironies and the beauties of each. According to some scholars, the book Doff Bamboo is a product of a master ironist and a satirist whose emotional amplitude allows her to bless even as she mocks. What a pleasure it is to read a poet whose passionate spirit is matched by her emotional soundness and monitored by irony. Chin once says, "So much of my poetry is about assimilation, about fearing it and loathing it, but also celebrating the wonderful magic of it." James, would you please read this poem from Doff Bamboo?
Of course, I would love to. Dear mentors, day I am filial monkey, practicing reading and writing. Next day, I wear ink eyeliner, open up Mandarin frocks for the boys. Professor Pooh, I think the ironic implications of the lines indicate that she is aware of her own complicity in orientalizing herself with her Mandarin frocks for the boys.
It is a very insightful interpretation, James. We have reached the end of this part. Thanks for watching and goodbye.